Chet Holmgren, the number one prospect this year, signed with Gonzaga. And I will say that watching him play is intriguing because you almost don't notice his size. Like he's 7 foot tall, but when you watch him play, I don't want to make the comparison because there's only one of him, but he reminds me a lot of the style of play that you would see out of a young Durant or Giannis.
Huh.
And I don't want to put that on him as like he's going to be either one of those players. I don't know if he's going to. I have to see him at Gonzaga to be able to tell you. I need to see him at a little bit of a higher level of play than just high school. Watching his high school highlights was impressive. I mean, the guy would pull up from three, he would beat you off the dribble, he would pull up from anywhere on the court. He would, he had the good turnaround fadeaways. He had some really nice footwork on his post moves. If I remember correctly, he followed balls well on rebounds, offensive rebounds. He basically did everything well, and that's why he's such an intriguing prospect because of how well rounded his game is at such an incredible height, being 7 foot tall. So yeah, I don't know. I don't. It's hard because he's rated so high, but I just don't know. Like watching him, there's just something off about it where I just don't know how successful he can really be. So I really need to see him first. But I will say this is obviously the highest draft pick that Gonzaga has ever gotten. Fun fact too, Jalen Suggs, who was their best player at Gonzaga, was Chet's teammate last year. So imagine those two players on the same team. Uh, Insane. And Suggs was their best prospect they had ever recruited at Gonzaga. And now Suggs' old teammate Chet takes that over as the number one prospect that Gonzaga has ever gotten in school history. So very interesting. Really intriguing. I think that if he was going to go anywhere, Gonzaga, Duke, those type of schools would have been perfect for him because they develop him correctly. And I think he needs to be developed a little bit. I think his game is so good already, but it needs to be developed. I don't know. There's just something about him. I don't want to name him an immediate star. And it's funny because if you look at his ratings right here, I mean, he's got a 5-star 100 rating from 24/7 Sports. He's got a 1.0 composite, which you rarely see in history of any prospects. I just don't know. I just don't know. I don't know how I feel entirely about him. Watching his film didn't give me enough confidence to be able to say that he's going to be 100% successful and reach the hype. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
I've not heard of him before now, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the it's an odd year, obviously with COVID and everything like that. People don't see that, but he was definitely one of those players that I've seen clips of him, but he didn't make like as much noise as like a Zion or somebody did. But being rated as high as he is, I mean, he might be rated higher than Zion coming out of high school, which is wild. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if the rating meets the player correctly. Like I don't know if the hype is going to be too high for him. It reminds me of like a Christian Leitner almost, and it's not like Christian, or almost. He reminds me a lot actually, and that's not funny of the guy from the Bulls. Oh, it's Kukoc. He reminds me a lot of Kukoc in his play, like just
Oh,
7 footer who can shoot, who can play well down low and plays good defense. I just don't think he'll ever reach superstar level. I think he's got more of a Kukoc ceiling, which is not bad by any means. Kukoc was obviously a fantastic player for the Bulls and was crucial to winning those final 3 championships. But I just think that's his. I don't think his ceiling is Durant. I think his ceiling is more Kukoc.
yeah. Interesting. That's funny.
I know I might get like the whole like, oh, it's another 7 foot white guy that you're comparing them to, but that's just their game is so very similar. And I know I mentioned another 7 foot white guy in Christian Leitner, but their games are just again so similar that those are what I'm thinking of, and that's what pops in my head initially when I see him play. And obviously, like I said, Durant and Giannis pop in my head, but I just don't see Giannis and Durant out of him. When I saw Giannis at Greece, like I was my friend Craig actually backed me up on it. He was like, "Yeah, I remember you telling me that Giannis was going to be good, like he was going to be great coming out of the draft." And he was like some 18-year-old kid out of Greece. But watching Giannis play, it just felt like I knew he was going to be good. I just don't have the same feeling with Chet. So we'll see how this goes. I obviously hope he reaches that potential because it's awesome for sports and in general. And March Madness next year will be wild if he reaches his potential. Because maybe Gonzaga can finally win it all. But we'll see.